Hello, my name is Liz, and you're watching For Booking Out Loud. Today I'm going to do my August wrap-up. It is about 2:30 on Sunday the 30th. And so I don't think at this point I'm going to finish any more books for August, which is fine. Perfect time to do this video. In August, I finished 39 books, which is about the same. I've been on a huge reading rush, for lack of a better word. And because of that, I hope you don't mind, I'm gonna have this little handy thing here to help me keep track of the books I read. So here is my plan. I'm going to show you what books I read and what rating I got, and that way you can see all of the books that I have, but I'm not going to talk about all of them. Unless they got a 3-star or above, they're not going to be mentioned outside of my ratings. And then if I have talked about them, especially in my summer ween videos, which I'll put above my head somewhere, won't talk about them either because that'll just be redundant and make this video even longer than it needs to be. But that doesn't mean they're bad books. It just means I've talked before. So let's get down into it. This is my books and what I've rated them. Editing Liz, take it over. So here is my series update. This past month, I at least started 6 series. I read the Companions Quartet, which I've talked about in the Books That Made Me video. And it was a good reread. I did enjoy it, but it was mostly because of nostalgia. All 4 books were decent, very strong environmental tones to them. However, I don't think I'll pick them up again in the future. I saw that the author, Julia Golding, released one more book with a character she just introduced at the end of the final book in the series. And I'll probably pick it up again just to finish out the whole world. But I don't know. I'll probably get nostalgic again in a couple years. The second series I started and finished this month was The Umbrella Academy. And I did read all 3 of them. 1, 2, oh, this is 1. This one's 2. This one's 3. It's by Gerard Way and Gabriel. Now, Gerard Way is the main vocalist of My Chemical Romance, and that is not why I picked up the series, nor is it because I've watched the Netflix series. I picked up The Umbrella Academy because my brother really liked it and he kept talking and talking about it the last couple months. So I was like, you know what? Stop talking about it. I will read them finally. And I did. In a couple of days. I mean, it's graphic novels. They're beautiful. Let me tell you, I would highly recommend picking this up if you're looking to pick up a graphic novel. And I gave the first 2 3 stars because I thought the storyline was good. It gets kind of confusing. You get a whole bunch of characters all at once and you have to keep up with it because they don't really let the reader breathe. And that might be my fault for kind of speed reading through it all. However, the 3rd book I absolutely enjoyed because you get so much of their backstory. By this time, you just kind of know what's going on with the characters. And you get to see more of all 7 of them when they're younger and then what their, I guess, father figure, dad, I don't know, the guy who took care of them, what he did with them when they were younger. Like I said, I have not watched the Netflix series yet, which, again, my brother has said is good, and it's a great compliment to the books. So it is on my to-do list. It just hasn't gotten completed yet. The next series I started this month was the Witcher series. I did start this series because of the Netflix series. I absolutely love the Netflix show. And so when I found out it was based on a series and a game, but mainly the series, I definitely wanted to pick it up, and I'm so glad I did. I read three books in that series: The Last Wish, Sword of Destiny, and Blood of Elves. Now, The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny are the first 2 books in the series, and people say you should read them before you start Blood of Elves, but they are short story books. Like the show, you kind of get snippets of the main character, Gerard's life, and kind of learn more about him as you read. And I absolutely love that about the book, actually. I learned so much about this main character before I even technically started the series. And I have to admit, I actually liked the second one, Sword of Destiny, more than I liked the first one. I can't tell you why, I liked the short stories better. Both wonderful though. Now, Blood of Elves, you jump a couple years after, and it's, again, technically the start of the series. And it's about Ciri, this girl that Gerard has taken in and started training and started raising as his own. I don't want to ruin it for you if you either A, want to watch the Witcher series on Netflix, or B, want to read the Witcher series as a book. But I really loved the continuation, and I'm really excited to read the next installment. But I just need to get my hands on it from the library. There's a really long wait. One day it will come. Now, the next series I started, I don't want to get that out of there, but it was Percy Jackson and the Olympians. It is a middle grade mythical fantasy set in contemporary times. But it's by Rick Riordan. I loved this series when I was growing up. These books are very well loved and very used. I really enjoyed reading or rereading this series. I've only gotten to the 4th book, and I have to admit, I really think that the best part of this series is watching Percy and actually Riordan grow together. Tell me if I'm mistaken, but I believe this was Riordan's first books written as an author, and just watching them develop more of a complex storyline and watching Percy struggle with like things that he has to struggle with as you grow up, along with, having a god as a father. Real world stuff, right? But the reason I picked these books up was because I saw Riordan's newest series, The Trials of Apollo. The last book in that series is coming out in October. Now, yes, this series is well loved by myself, but I never got into his other series. So I thought this was the perfect time because he's about to finish his newest one, and so I can pick up, he has 6 now in this universe? yeah, it's gonna be a while for me to finish all of them. But it'll be exciting for me because it's reintroducing new characters, and who doesn't love nostalgia? Who doesn't love picking up a beloved book they had when they were younger? The final series that I actually continued this month was the Dark Tower series. I started it in July with the Gunslinger. It's, again, in this pile somewhere. Alright, sorry about that. I ran out of storage and I had to take care of that. So I'm probably situated differently and my camera angle's probably different. Let's keep it that way. Alright. Where was I? Dark Tower. So I read The Gunslinger in July to start the Dark Tower by Steve. Not a fan. Did not like this book at all. But I continued and I read the drawing of the 3, hoping that the series would get better. This was my first Dark Tower series this month. Again, not a fan. Didn't like it. And this is a long book. Kind of mad at that. And then, lo and behold, still continued, and I read the 3rd book in this series, which is The Wastelands. I actually kind of like that book, so I'm really glad I continued. I enjoyed how every single character got its moment in the book. I liked how the storylines kind of picked up and the plot lines actually made sense and kind of had a stake. And I don't know, it picked up for me. What can I say? Then I read the 4th book, which is Wizard in Glass. Again, liked it more than those 2. Storylines were picking up, the setting was okay. I mean, they're still in the other place, I don't know. I liked it as much as I could, considering I didn't like the original. But I liked it so much that I ended up picking up Stephen King's novella that goes with the series that's supposed to be set between Wizard and Glass and The Wolves of Kala, I think is the 5th book. But I picked up the novella. It's called The Wind Through the Keyhole. The Wind Through the Keyhole. And I absolutely loved it. If you ignore the side story with our main characters and you ignore the side story on top of that with Roland in the past, and you just focus on the really interesting backstory that King tells about a really old gunslinger when he was a kid, I don't know what happened. It called to me and I really, really enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd recommend it to anyone who hadn't read the previous Gunslingers because you'd be really lost on part of the book. But if you haven't read it yet and you have read the first 4 Gunslinger books, pick it up. It deserves a read for people who have not picked that thing up yet. Anyway, moving on. Those were the series that I've read, started reading, finished, what have you this month. And we are going to start talking about the authors I specifically read. And since I started talking about the Gunslingers, we're gonna move on to Stephen King. It's at the end of this pile. Wish me luck. Whew, that was... Did I really read that? I read a lot of Stephen King this month. Alright, so... Gonna be honest here, not a huge Stephen King fan. I don't really like how he writes. That's just me. However, I have inherited probably half of his collection from my mom. And I'm in a weird mindset that if a book is on my shelf, I should probably read it. Otherwise, donate it somewhere. So I've started a long process of getting through Stephen King's books. So I apologize if you're not a King fan, but I'm gonna talk about a lot of King's books in the next couple of months, because it's gonna be a process. Now, in saying that, I've discovered that I've liked some of his books, particularly 11/22/65 has been my all-time King book, given it was not one that my mom owned, so I don't actually know why I picked it up. I'm weird. What can I say? But this month in particular, I read The Shining, which was awesome. However, I talked about it extensively in my Summerween vlog, so that guy goes there. If It Bleeds, his most recent short story collection, again, Summerween, Voodoo. And the Tommyknockers, also. Look at his beautiful picture. Okay, but the Tommyknockers, again, Summerween. So the two books I read of Stephen King's outside of Summerween was Gerard's Game and Dolores Claiborne. Speaking of beautiful pictures, look at him. Isn't he adorable? Okay. Did not like Gerard's Game. So we're gonna put him right here because he got below a 3 stars. Now, Dolores Claiborne, I actually really enjoyed, and it's a weird book to enjoy. King starts off by stating that this woman, Dolores Claiborne, pictured here, kills her husband, and she confesses to it. And she also confesses that she got away with it. And so you're literally just reading these pages, being like, why and how? And how did you get away with it? And so, especially for a King book, it's a decent amount, but you're just flipping through these pages being like, that's the reason. And it's not, and so you keep flipping and you're like, that's it. Nope. So it was a good mystery, and I really enjoyed it, and I can't explain it. It's still my top 5 King book right now, though. Go King. And that's my Stephen King for this month. This is gonna fall. Now, moving on, we have Junji Ito. I started his books this month thinking it'd take me a while to finish them. I finished all 3 that I own this month. So let me get this out of the pile. I read Uzumaki, Tomie, and Gaio. Even though I want to talk about it, I can't, because I talked about it during Summerween. But I still have these 2. Ha! Junji Ito has become one of my favorite authors this month. He is amazing. If you have not picked up one of his books, do so. Just do it. Especially if you like horror, mystery, thrillers, horror. Pick up a Junji Ito book. I suggest Gaio or Uzumaki. They're amazing. The way that Ito is able to take something as simple as a spiral or being a beautiful woman and creating something so horrific out of it is so beautiful. And he has a way to just make you disgustedly interested in his work. He is just a phenomenal manga artist. And I cannot kid you enough the amount of times that I tried to tell myself, I'm gonna put this book down and finish it tomorrow. And then I turn the page to maybe the last page of the chapter, or second to last page of the chapter, and he just blew my mind that I had to keep reading. Was ridiculous. I am so excited to get my hands on his short stories, but I'm gonna restrain myself for a couple of days, months, so I don't just like consume everything he has out right now that's in English. Pick up a Junkyard notebook. Just do it. Okay, the last part of my wrap-up, I am going to go over some of the novels that I've read. Now, I'm only, again, going to talk about novels that I gave at least a 3-star to, and that I have something to say about, I guess. I read a lot this month. The first one I want to go over is She Would Be King. Now, this is a This is a magical realism book that explores the creation of Libya. It's a beautiful story. You have 3 very distinct characters going through some really, really rough hardships with these magical elements, meeting, leaving each other, meeting again, and just exploring what it means to grow up and what it takes to truly create a new country. And I don't know if I'd read it again. I don't think I would ever read it again, just because magical realism isn't truly what I enjoy. The way Moore writes is just beautiful. So, She Would Be King, decent book. Now, a book that truly did hit home for me was Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. Whew. This was a story that I've been meaning to read for a while, and I finally got around to it this month. It's about giving a voice to the voiceless. From my understanding, Barker has studied Roman mythology for so long. The Iliad, the Odyssey, I guess it's not Roman, that's Greek mythology for a while. And she gives so many stories to the women of the war that the Iliad's based off of. She gives these women their backstories, their plots, and what they go through during this war. When you're not talking about Helen or the Greek goddesses, these women have no faces, they have no names, and Barker decided to create a historical fiction book to show what life would have been like for these women. And it was a truly terrifyingly beautiful book. Horrible in so many ways, but also so wonderful. And listening to it this month was just, I'm glad I truly picked this book up, and I would suggest anyone who likes historical fiction or likes mythology to pick this book up. Another book I wanted to talk about is Woven in the Moonlight. This book was amazing, is amazing, phenomenal, beautiful. Pick it up, read it. If you like fantasy, do it. So Woven in the Moonlight is about Jamina, who is a decoy princess during a very turbulent time in this kingdom. She looks so much like the princess of her kingdom that she is basically been the princess for the past 10 years and no one knows the difference. So when the kingdom that's taken over has summoned the princess to marry the current king, they don't get along. They don't want to get along. And the king's a douchebag. Point blank. He's evil, he's violent, he's taken over things. Not a good dude. So Hamina has to still play the princess and get married to this guy to keep the princess safe. And it's just a really interesting story where you have a little bit of a mystery, you have romance, you have some magical elements from the moon because it's called Woven in the Moonlight, and you have a tale that kind of explores what friendship is as well. And it's really good. Also, that cover, it's absolutely gorgeous. If you like fantasy, if you like young adult fantasy, I think this is gonna be a book you'd like. The last book I want to talk about today is called Bloodleaf. Bloodleaf is another young adult fantasy. I felt all the emotions when I was reading Bloodleaf. It's about another princess, except this time she's actually a princess, and she is able to use blood magic in a country that absolutely has banished magic from the whole place. Like, there are witch trials, they burn witches, they hang witches, like, don't even be accused of being a witch in this country. And their princess is one. And so she's on the verge of turning 16 and being sent away to a different kingdom to be married to a prince. Sounds great. She's able to escape her kingdom. She's never met the dude, but life, right? However, there ends up being a coup the night before she's supposed to go off and marry this prince. And this is the story of how a girl learns how to be herself and learns how to discover her own magic and her own self-worth while having the biggest hardship of her life and being separated from everything she's ever known and just being in pain. Great story. The author was able to weave in so much, and you just feel for this princess and you feel for the people around her, and then it just, the author just rips it all from you. Yeah, I cried. It's fine. Still a great book. And that was my August wrap-up. 39 books? No joke. I don't think I'll be reading that many books in September though, as things pick up at my school, which is good. How was your August? I'm really curious. Did you have any great books that you liked? Did you discover any authors that you really enjoyed? I want to know. If you're interested in more content, I post on Tuesdays and Fridays. And I hope to see you next time. Bye. Oh, this is gonna fall. Where's my shiny? Damn it! This was not a good idea. Here's a monkey. Social justice ideas in her book. Ah!